Hi everyone, Az here from Heel vs Babyface. Let's look at some charts, shall we? Because I did the charts for January and February for top grossing games, and there were a few things which I wanted to keep an eye on. Number one, World of Warcraft, because despite Battle for Azeroth's poor reception, and let's be honest, it is a failure of an expansion, it was still generating money. It was still in the top 10 for PC games, which was a very big plus point for Blizzard. Also, I wanted to keep an eye on Apex Legends, because although that game had a stellar first month, $92 million I think it did in February, I predicted a sharp decrease because they weren't doing anything with the game. You know, they weren't adding any new modes. They added a couple of new characters, but no new modes, no new maps, nothing like that. And the first season pass was atrocious. I mean, I'll just call it how it is. It was absolutely atrocious. So having seen that, it put me off because I felt as if I got totally ripped off from my cash, which is not something I feel if I buy a battle pass with Fortnite, because I think you get a ton of cool shit with that. So let's stick with Apex Legends first of all. So first month they do 92 million. Second month they drop down to 9th spot on the PC and they drop down to 6th spot on console. Now there were 4 and they've gone down 2 spots to 6, and they were 6 on PC and they've gone down 3 to number 9. Revenue wise, don't know the exact number, but it was a significant drop. It was a significant drop in revenue from the first month. Easy to see why. It's still doing very well. Can we just stress that? It's still doing very well indeed. World of Warcraft, just clinging on for dear life in the top 10. Still doing well though. So 10th spot, so it's still hanging on. Despite Battle for Azeroth's poor reception, no doubt poor financial compared to what it should be or could be, still hanging on there in the top 10 spot. So let's jump now. With that looked at, because that's all we really need to spend on the previous month. This is the latest data. Came out a couple of weeks ago, but this is the latest data. What do you not see anywhere? Yeah. You don't see WoW and you don't see Apex Legends. But I want to give a quick shout out, by the way, to Sekiro in 4th spot and 7th spot, respectively, for console and PC. And for anyone who says, but it's an Activision published game. Yeah, it is. But to me, it's a From Software developed game through and through. So I think it's awesome. Well done to Sekiro. But yeah, World of Warcraft, not in the top 10 anymore. Gone. And Apex Legends, nowhere. Nowhere on console and PC. So let's deal with Apex Legends first and foremost. Apex Legends falls out of the top rankings for console and PC. Generated $24 million in April, down significantly for the second month in a row. Monthly revenue now sits at just over a quarter of the launch month sales from February. Now, we've got to take it again. We've got to put things into perspective here. It's doing incredibly. In terms of money for the company, it's doing incredibly. And I don't want to take anything away from them for that. But it just shows what happens when you don't capitalize on a white-hot entrance. And that's what they did. They had a white-hot entry, and instead of adding game modes, giving people what they wanted, instead of, you know, not cutting it from 3, but having a duo mode or having a 4-person mode or something like that, adding those into the game, they just kept everything as was, added a couple of characters, and that was it. The Battle Pass, as I mentioned earlier, kind of felt like a rip-off. It felt like a really slapped-together money grab, and it put a bad taste in my mouth. It really did. Because I do not buy a Battle Pass so I can unlock a bloody stat line. They should all be there as standard. All the season stats should be available for you as standard. I buy a battle pass because I want cool cosmetics, I want cool skins. That's the kind of thing that I want from a battle pass. I want some sillies, I want some emotes, whatever. Now, the problem is with Apex Legends against Fortnite is Apex Legends is a first-person shooter, Fortnite is a third-person shooter. So you can do a bit more with the characters on Fortnite than you can Apex Legends. But that's why you get paid, to start thinking of ways to actually add value to the Battle Pass. So Battle Pass Season 1 didn't come across as value for money. Came across as if I got ripped off. The second season Battle Pass, we're going to start to see some details about it, bigger details about it, within the next few days. I'm not sure if there's a concrete release date for it yet. I don't think so. But that really has to be a significant improvement on the first one. Because if it isn't, I don't think you're incentivizing anybody to return who's left the game. But it's such a shame because I think Apex Legends is great. I think it's really, really good fun to play. And they had such a great chance, such a great opportunity to really give Fortnite a run for the money. And I think it's gone. I do think it's gone now. Something very, very special would have to happen for them to get it back. When I say something very, very special, there'd have to be a really cool new map. Something along those kind of lines that could really pull people back into playing. But when you've got people like Shroud and Dr. Disrespect having stabs at the game, and they've been paid, no doubt, handsomely by Respawn, by EA, to promote that game when it first came out, you know, it's not very good. Not very good at all. But let's talk about Blizzard, because that's the main brunt of this video as well. World of Warcraft is gone from this list, okay? To be expected? Probably. But at the same time, World of Warcraft is currently 4th in the top streamed games for May, for this month. This month's figures won't be available until later in this month. Last month's, you know what I mean. So there's a load of interest in World of Warcraft at the moment, but it's in Classic, isn't it? That's where the interest is. The interest is in Classic World of Warcraft. What doesn't Classic World of Warcraft have that the current game has? Cash shop. It doesn't have a cash shop. So if people are really turned on by what they see with Classic, and people still pay their subscription fee, but come over maybe from the stale current game into Classic and decide they want to stay there, then there's no reason for them to be spending money on faction transfers, race changes, name changes, etc. Because that is not part of the vanilla experience. Now, Blizzard will be hoping, of course, that a significant number of people return to the game, and to play Classic, you do have to be subscribed, so that could push them back into the top 10, and that's what they'll be hoping for. But the popularity of Classic could actually have an effect on their cash store business, because the mounts aren't going to come across, pets aren't even going to come across, none of that business. Oh, that would be an awful shame, wouldn't it? But it's not only World of Warcraft that is hurting right now. Hearthstone and Overwatch are in big trouble. When I say big trouble comparative, of course. Overwatch and Hearthstone still face declines despite new content updates. Both titles saw a sequential bump in total digital revenue following new content releases, but still declined 15% and 37% year over year, respectively. On a combined basis, Overwatch and Hearthstone digital revenue across all platforms is down 39% to date compared with the same period in 2018. This is pretty disastrous. It is pretty disastrous. When you've added content to both of these games and you can't get anywhere close, particularly on Hearthstone, to where you were last year. And remember, only a couple of months back in February, Hearthstone was down 52% year over year. 52%. Now they brought out what they claimed was the biggest PvE patch that they've ever brought in. Still down 37% year over year. So the little uptick that they got in no way compensated for their losses. And Hearthstone again, Overwatch again still continues to decline, and that's down with extra content 15%, but both of them combined 39% down year over year. Now, this is really bad because Blizzard have no new IP coming out this year. And one of the reasons that they suggest, particularly for the Hearthstone decline, is franchise fatigue. Because there's so little that you can actually do with a card game. Particularly Hearthstone. It's a card game. You can add more and more cards, and yes, you can add more and more expansions. But whether it's a perception or a reality, people from the outside looking in see, no. This is too big a gap for me to claw back. Even from a perception perspective, they could think that they're priced out this game completely. No point in me even bothering to go into this game. There's too many expansions, too many cards. Whether or not you could or not is irrelevant. That is the perception that Hearthstone has, and I think that is scaring people off in the droves. And because it's just a small little card game, very little scope for you to do too much with it. At least with Overwatch, it's a first-person shooter. It's a more engaging, active, skill-based sort of system, physically skill-based as opposed to mentally skill-based, which Hearthstone is. And so that you can sort of understand why that would decline at a slower rate and why there'd be more scope. People play same map over and over again in first-person shooters all day, every day. But BlizzCon isn't going to bring any other content, with it this year. They might announce a new IP. They might announce Diablo 4, but they're not going to be coming out. They're going to be a ways down the line. There's no World of Warcraft expansion this year, so they're going to have to really put all their cards, all their money on Classic, being the revenue generator for them. And we already know from Activision Blizzard themselves, they've said that this year, 2019, is going to be a bit of a sparse year comparatively. Don't get me wrong, still doing very, very well. Can we just, stress that? They're still doing very, very well. But comparatively, which of course scares the shareholders, which causes the stock price to drop. This is what happens when you're beholden to shareholders. So it's really not good news for Blizzard as we're going into what is just going to continue to be a drier and drier year in terms of content. And everything, all hopes right now seem to be on Classic, generating a return to subscriber numbers for the game and hopefully pushing it back into that top 10 here. But it doesn't look like Overwatch or Hearthstone are going to do that, and we could continue to see them plummet in year over years. So interesting stuff. Oots, man. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links down in the description box down below. I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.